The dark side of AI is our next topic. Scott Baradell joins us to discuss this. And anytime, and I know, Scott, off the top of the show, first of all, welcome to the program. Off the top of the show, I said I'm the biggest hypocrite because we're so dependent on AI. You do it now if you talk into your phone. You have spell check. Just so many ways we're dependent on it. But I love to root against it, you know? So I'm a hypocrite. It's like, I don't want AI. I mean, AI is taking jobs. It's taking humanity out of things. I can write things. It can, it thinks for itself. It's going to take over the world. But boy, man, if you took away my phone and all these things, I'd be screwed. So this is an interesting situation here. First of all, I should ask you, where do you fall as far as being pro or anti-AI before we get into this situation?
It's a good question. It's kind of like how I am about phones. It's like I hate that everybody, including myself, are on their phones all the time, but I don't know what I'd do without it.
Right.
It's like that. It's great. It's a great tool. It makes things more efficient, but it does take some humanity out of things, out of your life, and it starts to affect how you view the work of others. Is this real, or is it Memorex? Did they actually do this, or did they just have it spat out by ChatGPT?
Well, we've seen that in commercials. I can't remember which product it's for, but there's an actor. For some reason, I think the actor is the guy that played Booger in Risky Business. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong about that. But he sits there and he goes and he starts to type a memo, but then he goes into chat, whatever you just called it. I don't even know what that chatbot, ChatGPT or whatever.
ChatGPT, yeah.
Yeah, ChatGPT, and it totally changes the tone of it. It makes him sound brilliant. And then they pan over to the boss, and the boss goes, wait a minute, did you write this? I think that sucks. That's the part I think that sucks. And I know everybody does it. It saves time and so forth, but that's just, kids don't have to write, and I think that sucks. That's the part I don't like, but it's here to stay.
Well, yeah, but the other thing is, the thing about ChatGPT and these tools is they won't tell you they're wrong. And, there's a recent study done by Purdue University that found that about over 50%, 52% to be exact, of ChatGPT answers have at least one error in them. That's a little scary. So,
I mean, that's very scary.
It would be better if they were 100% accurate. There was actually an attorney who went into a courtroom in Colorado and talked about all these cases to make his tell his side of the court case, and it turned out the cases were completely made up by ChatGPT. They were not real cases that had happened, and so the guy was fired from his law firm, and he was suspended from the bar in Colorado. So you don't take it at face value. You better check the facts.
Wow. I mean, wow. I mean, I hate for somebody to lose their job, but come on. That's ridiculous. Now, the reason we had you on, there was an article, there's a story about a young woman, and she was using AI to help her with some homework. The chatbot Gemini, Google's Gemini. And what the chatbot, excuse me, this language is foreign to me, said to her at the end was, "Human, please die." Right? And she had it's funny, but it's scary. She had a friend with her, in the room. But I mean, certainly it could happen. I mean, of course it could happen. There's a glitch. There's something that goes wrong there. How often does this happen?
Well, there have been glitches, from, just in this case, I'll give you the full quote because it's even more impressive. There was a long, if you've ever used or know folks that use these tools, and most people are using them today, you might ask a lot of questions to try to get the exact output you want. And it's like in this, and you can see the full chat online it's been saved that this grad student had with Gemini. And the final, it's like Gemini is getting more and more frustrated, almost like it's a person, and finally says, "This is for you, human. You are not special. You are not important. You are not needed. You are a stain on the universe. Please die."
Good God.
And so at that point, this person completely freaked out and stopped asking questions. So maybe Gemini had just had enough. But that's not the first time it's happened. A few years ago, Microsoft had a chat bot they created for teens called Tay that was almost immediately decommissioned because it was making racist remarks. It was saying things like Hitler was right, horrible, just unimaginably horrible things. ChatGPT had itself, which is of course the most popular large language model currently. They had a malfunction where people were actually seeing the questions that other users that they didn't know were asking. So a complete violation of confidentiality, a horrible privacy bug. Meta, Facebook, they had something called Blenderbot, and when people were asking it questions about whether it's the Trump elections or Kennedy assassination or whatever, it was totally, totally bought into all these conspiracy theories and saying, yes, the conspiracy theories are the facts. And so it's just across the board. There has to be an understanding that these tools are very much still in development, and you just can't take them as gospel. They trick you into making you think they can do anything, but they can't. I work with a company called Acquire BPO, which is a business process outsourcing company that does call centers and helps companies with all kinds of other work around the world using people, but of course introducing AI as part of what they do, as all companies are increasingly doing. But we did a survey recently, Acquire BPO, where they found that 70% of Americans said that if they had one bad experience with AI, they would consider switching to another brand, to another company. So it has major commercial implications if you're not watching this stuff really closely.
Has it ever cost someone their life?
Wow, good question. I can't think of an example of that offhand. What I immediately think of is Skynet became self-aware at 2:14 a.m. Eastern time. That's the line from the original Terminator, where it was all about an AI defense system that became self-aware, and they decided to since they were in charge of the weapons, to nuke all the humans, and that's where the Terminator came from. So, I don't know a real life example, but.
Well, this is what comes to mind for me is when you see situations like this where you're talking about, verbiage. Okay, so so the computer insulted somebody. All right, fine. But when you talk about depending on AI, maybe in life-threatening situations, when it comes to dealing with ambulatory services, when it comes to dealing with firefighting, when it comes to dealing with police work, that's the thing where I'm concerned. And I'm not talking about something catastrophic like war games or where they launch, 100 missiles or, I'm talking about in a situation where you may have a public servant, firefighter, police officer, medical person, that is in a situation, depending on information, where they need to try to go into a fire or they're going into a violent situation. And the information's wrong because it doesn't come from a person.
Well, yeah, I think it is a legitimate concern. I definitely think that there are improvements happening every day, like, for example, in these tools, increasingly, as opposed to just putting information out there that may or may not be true, there are links to the original sources and things like that to verify. I would say, for companies, particularly for situations like you're describing, but I would say for companies in general, taking a more conservative approach where you're not asking the AI to do too much, where you're making the tasks a little simpler, and so you can be sure, it's directing you to information that is true, as opposed to you're asking it to solve the world's problems, or you're asking it to really what it does. It's just an advanced form of memorization, and they memorize and they put answers to different questions together essentially, and they provide, they're kind of programmed to always give you an answer. And if you're programmed to always give an answer, it's not always going to be right. So but you can set it to not do that. You don't have to set it your AI to go that far.
And it's also based on something that's previously happened.
Correct.
So when you have a situation that is new and the computer can't refer back to anything, you're screwed. More on AI coming up next. The good side of AI. We like to be fair and balanced here. we try to do our best. That's coming up next on WBZ with Scott Baradell. Don't go away.
Now, back to Dan Ray, live from the Window World Nightside Studios on WBZ News Radio.
Welcome back. Gary Tangway for Dan Ray tonight. Scott Baradell joining us here talking about, well, we were ripping on AI, and I do want to get to the positive end of things. But when do you think, Scott, it'll be so cost prohibited, or maybe we've seen examples of it, where a company says, all right, we're losing so much business, this AI isn't working, I need to get a real person back in here?
Well, I think that's for companies that kind of go too far too fast. I think there definitely been some examples of companies that have maybe dived in a little too fast, went too far, and then they had to pull back. I mentioned this survey by Acquire BPO, which if you want to see the full survey, it's at acquirebpo.com. But what the data shows is that people are most confident in a situation where there's a blend of human support and AI support. They like that AI support can make things go faster. So, like, you don't want to be on hold for 30 minutes before you get to talk to someone, things like that. So there are a lot of things that AI can do. And if they know, hey, if I'm not getting what I need from AI, I can escalate to a person. I can use AI to help me identify and consolidate kind of the past customer service experience I've had, for example, but then I can talk to a person to solve the problem I'm having right now. You talked about, AI knows the past but can't predict the future. That's where it's a good idea to have that blend. Companies that have made the mistake, kind of like this lawyer made, of thinking, AI looks like it knows what it's talking about, so I can just assume it does. Just remember, it's wrong 52% of the time, or something is wrong in the answer, and you have to check it. It's kind of like in the early days of Wikipedia. Really still is true today, but people would say, hey, Wikipedia is not, gospel. You don't do your research paper and just say, I got it out of Wikipedia. You have to, it can guide you, but go find the original sources.
Well, even when I do research for the show, when we talk politics or we do something of a serious nature, where you want to get your facts straight, I will, online, I'll start reading different things, and then I'll be like 3/4 of the way, and I go, wait a minute, this is bullcrap. Where did this come from? This doesn't make any sense. You can't. You have to vet it. You got to vet stuff. I mean, listen, I called my bank the other day. I'm not going to mention the bank. I called my bank the other day, and when you go through, you punch all the buttons and for this and for this. But I had a certain situation. I had a certain question regarding an account, and I got a person, because I like to talk to people, and then that person had to send me to a supervisor, and that supervisor didn't know the answer. They had to send me to a manager above the supervisor. Where your point is well taken is if the first person had the AI to give them the answer, then they could have just simply told me and I would have been satisfied.
Right.
Right?
Or
So,
how you...
Yeah,
exactly.
Because the answer wasn't. It wasn't hard. They just had to get to somebody who actually had the information. I was on hold for an hour.
Yeah, it's like when you go to the doctor's office and you have to fill out the clipboard every single time. It's like, are you saving any of this information from one visit to the next? Yeah, so there's definitely some advantages to automation, which of course has been around forever, and AI that is kind of taking that to the next level.
What about the positive end of it?
Well, there's a tremendous amount of positive if you know how to use it. In other words, you can be far more productive. I can tell you that, part of what I work at a PR and marketing firm, and we do search engine optimization, things like that. I can tell you more and more people are doing their searches through a ChatGPT or Gemini rather than going to the traditional Google search, because Google will send you to a page somewhere, and maybe it's been optimized, but maybe it's not the best answer to your question. In the case of searching for what you're looking for and doing your research through a tool like a ChatGPT, and again, increasingly they're including their source links and things to make it more so you can check that it's accurate. It's a much more effective way of gathering information, and it's increasingly becoming it's predicted before too long is going to be the number one way people search for the information they're looking for online. So it's inevitable that it's going to keep getting better. It's amazing how far it's come and how many people are using it in the short amount of time it's been around, been widely available. So you've got to assume that at the rate at which it's improving and progressing, a lot of these things that have caused the problems are going to go away.
What about in the medical world?
Well, in the medical world, obviously you have to operate with caution. I would say medical as well as kind of highly regulated industries like finance, for example. There was a big case with, I think, Bank of America where AI chatbot was giving people incorrect information about mortgage loans and kind of important financial transactions. In the medical world, obviously, even more important to be careful because you're talking about life and death stuff.
Yeah, it's when I think about situations like that, and the reason I ask the question is if you need to say you have a task either in the medical world or the financial world, and you need 100% activity to complete that task. I can see AI taking you to 25%, and then somebody else has to take you the rest of the way. That's that's what I see. I don't see you can't have AI complete 100% of that task in those areas.
I think that's a good way to think about it. I think the higher risk the task, the more important it is to have humans more involved, particularly at this stage of the development of AI. But I would tell you, we actually did a survey, a company called Krista, which is they're like a Amazon Alexa conversational AI, but they work within companies. They did a survey asking people what they trusted AI to do and not do. And it just showed you kind of the amount of confusion out there. Like, is AI going to help me in my job, or is it going to take away my job? But one of the questions, it asked quite scenarios like, do you trust AI to pick your wardrobe for work? Or would you trust AI to fly a plane with no pilot in it? And more people picked, I would trust AI to fly a plane with no pilot in it than pick my clothes, So I think there's a lot of people that are just still, it's all so new that they're all trying to come to terms with it, and that leads to some weird juxtapositions like that.
I will leave you with this. I will never, ever get in a car that drives itself. Ever. Ever. I've heard that, okay, you can have a driver, you can get in the car, you can sit in the back seat, and you can work, and you get on your laptop and do work, and you punch in where you're going to go, and the car takes you there. No way. I don't trust it. Never. What are your thoughts on that?
You could get carjacked also. I don't know. Yeah, I'm with you.
That's the one that drives me crazy. I mean, I don't get that. And they've had it. They've had tests where people have been killed. Guys get in the back seat and they have supposedly a driverless car. I don't get it. That's the part where it's insane. Like,
I think we're going to be old-fashioned on that one, yeah.
I don't even think we're being old-fashioned. I just think it's common sense. Well, it's like, look, technology has helped all of us. I get it, and I'm open to it. But, I mean, look, voice commands on TV when I want to go, into my TV, watch, watch the Boston Celtics. Boom, and it pops up. I love that. You can help me with that, but I don't need you to drive my damn car.
Yeah, I think I'll drive myself, too, for the indefinite future.
All right, Scott Baradell. What's the name of your company?
My company is called IdeaGrow, and the survey is by a company called Acquire BPO.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on. You sound like a reasonable person. You've really come. I really have enjoyed this conversation because you've made me feel a little more comfortable, to be quite honest.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate that. Have a good night and have a good Thanksgiving.
All right. You too. Take care.
All right.